Hi there, this is Aaron. Well, I've been tagged by just about everybody to do the allotment challenge, the 10 questions. So thank you very much to everyone who's nominated me. I saw that Julie nominated, I saw that Nigel nominated me, I saw that Jamie nominated me, Mick's just nominated me. There have been so many people that have nominated me. So here is my allotment challenge. And also thank you very, very much to Laura, Foodie Laura, for setting this meme going. I met up with Laura and Trevor earlier this year, and they're lovely people. And if you're not subscribed to Laura's channel, please do go and subscribe to Laura's channel. She's got lots of really interesting stuff there. It's not just allotments, it's what she cooks and when they go out and about. So please do. Right, question number 1. How long have you had an allotment for? This particular plot I've had for almost exactly a year. I took it over this time last year. I had my previous plot prior to that, which I had for a season and a half. I didn't get an allotment until myself and my wife moved out to the countryside. I used to live in central London, and I did inquire about an allotment back then, but I was told that there was a 25-year waiting list, and I didn't really want to wait that long. So I wasn't able to do anything about getting an allotment until we moved out to the countryside. The next question is, how long did you have to wait for your allotment? Well, I suppose, if you count when I first inquired and they said 25 years, that I had to wait a couple of years. But I mean, I just gave up and I didn't even put my name down. The curious thing is, when we did move out here, I inquired to every allotment plot that I knew of in the area. And within days, somebody came back to me and said, well, actually, we've got a plot available. So from when I first inquired to when I first was able to get my first plot, and I can tell you when it was the 1st of June 2013. That wait was probably no more than 4 weeks. So I know that some people have, huge, horrendous waits to get plots, particularly in cities. Whereas I think the further that you tend to get out from the city, the easier that it gets. The next question is, where did you learn about gardening? Well, it is a bit of a cliche, but it was from my grandfather. One of my grandfathers was a very keen gardener. In fact, both of my grandfathers were very keen gardeners. Another grandfather was very good at making wine, and that's where the interest in that comes from as well. But I remember as a small child with my garden, they had their 1930s bungalow, which had a beautiful front garden, which always looked immaculate with topiary, and a back garden that had all the roses. During the war, they dug up the lawn and they basically operated an allotment in their front garden and back garden. They had chickens out there and they had rabbits out there and they had ducks out there. I didn't see all this because obviously I came along much, much later, but I did see them working so hard, and they liked nothing more than to sit out in a Sunday afternoon, and after they'd been working on the garden, to sit out and enjoy it. Now the curious thing is that I grew up in flats and moving around a lot, and so I didn't get a chance to have a garden until many, many years later. And that's the reason why I didn't get into gardening as quickly as I could have done. It's because the opportunity wasn't there, and if an allotment wasn't there, then I couldn't do anything. The next question is, did you plant a winter garden? Well, not this year. In fact, I barely planted a summer garden. If you'll remember, my season got cut a little bit short, so I haven't got the plot ready. I think for a winter garden, you really need to have the plot ready. And however long that takes you, That's how long you've really got to think about waiting before you can run a plot all the year round. At the moment, I'm concentrating on running a plot for a season. And if I can do that to go through a season, then I'll start to think ahead to the next season. But at the moment, what's firmly in my mind is spring and getting the plot ready again for spring, because it's in a bit of a state. I do need to get down there. In some ways, it's a little bit daunting because I was all buoyed up to get cracking on it last year. And then, of course, I had to cut everything short. So it is a case of having to get back in the swing of things. So the next one is, what has been your biggest success this year? Now, that's interesting because there actually haven't been that many. I think it's that we got some runner beans, but I mean, going back to the early part of the season, I had the most enormous rhubarb. I know that there were some people that said it was the size of an elephant, and when you look at some of those leaves on them, they wouldn't have looked out of place on an elephant. So the rhubarb that I grew last year was my biggest success. I'm hoping that next year I can add a few other things to it as well, because other successes were very few and far between. So the next one was, what was your biggest gardening disaster? Well, if you remember this time last year, I had a greenhouse and I was all ready to move it from my previous plot up to my new plot. And then I got a phone call to say that the strong winds last year, and it's almost exactly the same time of year as last year, had absolutely destroyed my greenhouse. And I got there and it was a disaster, darling. Everything was scattered to the four winds. So that is my biggest disaster to date. I would not be at all concerned if that was the largest disaster that ever befell me, although somehow I doubt it. I think I am due a few more disasters as well. I mean, if you add to that pretty much everything I grew from July onwards this past season, all of those were pretty disastrous. I mean, I couldn't get the beans to germinate. They all got blasted by the wind. All of my sweet corn that took forever to start going, well, the deer had that and knocked that all down. I didn't get a giant marrow as I was hoping to. I suppose I got some courgettes, so that was a success, not too much of a disaster, but there were a lot that were. So the next question, do you have a tried and tested crop variety that you grow every year? Well, there are some that I really do like. For instance, I really like international kidney potatoes. I find that they always grow the best. I find that they always taste the best. They are also known as Jersey Royals if you get them young and buy them from Jersey. They're a beautiful potato. They can be used in lots of ways actually if you let them grow beyond Jersey Royal size. And they make lovely mash, and they're also pretty good roasted. Are you planning on trying anything new next year? Well, to be honest, there's quite a few things that I tried last year that if I get it to grow next year will be new. I really want to try sweet corn again. I learnt an awful lot from the experience last year. I need to start it earlier. I need to give it more protection. And what will really make me happy is if I can grow sweet corn next year. Next question, how do you preserve your crops? Well, we do freeze them. We also pickle them. When I say we, my wife is the big pickler. She takes my onions and she pickles my onions. What I'm interested in doing next year is drying more crops so that maybe we can get some dried fruit with a dehydrator. The other thing that I'm very keen to really get into next year is to make alcohol from crops. So number 10, what's your favourite meal to cook with the veg from the plot? Well, there's something that I put together which I just call an allotment stew. And it's basically whatever I've got from the plot into a pot with some stock and some dumplings. Yeah, maybe a little bit of meat as well, and see what comes out. And I often make that for my lunch. So I think allotment stew is the perfect thing to cook with your various produce. Of course, there is also a roast dinner. There is nothing quite like a roast dinner. There's nothing quite like roast potatoes. And if they happen to be roast potatoes that you've grown yourself, so much the better. Last year, I grew Golden Wonder potatoes, which is one of the flouriest and roastiest potatoes that you can get. And this year, even though I haven't even lifted them yet, we've got some Red Rooster. So I'm hoping to get some good roast potatoes out of those. So there's two. Laura also, I think it was Laura, also put a bonus question in, which is what first made you come to YouTube? And so I'll answer that one as well. It was really when I first thought I want to do some gardening. I'm in an environment now where I can. And so I started thinking to myself, well, I'm sure an awful lot's changed. And you can't always trust a 6-year-old's memory through into adulthood. And so I started to look on YouTube to see what techniques people were using, what varieties I should buy, just basically throwing myself fully into the gardening experience. And I know that my wife got absolutely fed up with me, saying you're forever watching YouTube videos. And what became clear is that there was a community. And so I decided, on day one, when I got my allotment, and if you look at the first video that I ever did, it is when I first stepped foot on my allotment for the first time. It was very much to become part of that community so that I could learn. I always describe it as my journey from clueless to competent, or at least it will be when I get there. So there you go. There's my allotment challenge. I'm sorry it's late. Thank you to everybody that's nominated me. I would like to nominate a couple of people as well. I would like to nominate Linda Penney. So Linda, if you could take the allotment challenge. And I would also like to nominate Adam from Allotment Grow. So there you go, guys. There's 2 of you. I look forward to your videos. All that remains to be said, I guess, is Merry Christmas. And I know as Dave is trying to get a video together, which I hope that I'll be able to contribute to as well. Give peace a chance. Goodbye, everyone.